to the South Niagara Chambers of Commerce Mayor's Fall Update Series. We'll be starting in just a few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say. So hang on tight, and we'll be with you. Hello, everybody. We'll be starting in a few seconds. So thank you for your patience, and welcome to the Mayor's Fall Update Series. Hi, Mary Diodati. Dottie, can you hear me okay? Or
I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, wonderful. That's great.
Okay, great.
Well, we normally have people coming on not right at 10 o'clock, so we lag things a little bit just to get attendance up a bit.
No problem. No, take your time. I'm ready whenever you're ready. And if you want to wait a few minutes, I'm good with that too. Whatever works.
We'll make it another 40 seconds or so.
Yeah. 40? What's significant about 40? Not 30
I don't know.
or
It's a
60?
good number. Yeah, it's between 35 and 45.
Okay, good. Magical.
Well, let's get underway here. Good morning and welcome everybody to the fourth session of the Mayor's Fall Update Series. I'm Vern Below, and I'll be the moderator today. And our feature mayor today is Mayor Jim Diodati, Mayor of Niagara Falls. Just a brief notes is that our next session in the series is going to be on November 12th with Mayor Marv Junkin from Pelham, followed by November 19, Terry Ugolini, Mayor of Thorold, and December 3rd, finishing up with Bill Steele, Mayor of Port Colborne. We, of course, thank all the mayors for participating in the series, and we know that many of our members are concerned, have issues, and a number of questions regarding what is happening in our communities and during these challenging times. And we certainly look forward to hearing from Mayor Diodati today in terms of what he has to say. We thank our sponsors, B4 Networks and Growth Associates. B4 Networks is looking after our technical side today, and Growth Networks is represented by myself. And also we thank our partner, the Niagara Board of Trade and Commerce. The format today will be to hear from Mayor Diodati with a 15-20 minute address, or however long you'd like, and that'll be followed by a question and answer period. You can pose your questions at the bottom of your screen. If you hover your cursor, you should have a pop-up logo of Q&A. You can click that, place your question, and we'll do our best to try to get to it with the mayor. If we don't get that question answered, or if there is another question that develops, please feel free to contact the chamber, and we'll be more than happy to try to get that answer for you and handle it that way. So yeah, without any further ado, I'd like to pass the floor on to Mayor Diodati, and thank you, Mayor, for the time taken, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Vern. Thanks, Dolores, and I'm sure a lot of the people will probably tune in later and watch it when it's more convenient. Maybe 10 a.m. is not convenient for a lot of business owners that are busy working right now.
Well, Mayor, what I forgot to tell or mention was that this is recorded, and it's available for anybody to watch afterwards. So we do get a number of listeners that come on later.
Well, I'm kind of counting on that because I'm thinking a lot of them will probably want to watch it late at night, just to help them get to sleep. It's a good way to just kind of wind you down for the night. It's like listening to that kind of music that puts you to sleep. So I'll do my best to not put you to sleep yet. But yeah, thanks, Vern. And I'm going to try to follow. I've got approximately 30 slides, and I'm going to try to stick to about a minute each one, try to keep my presentation under 30 minutes. And then that leaves as much time as needed for any Q&A. I know up to 30 minutes of Q&A. And I love, that's my favorite part of the presentation, when people get to ask me, because so often I'll be out and about in public and people love to ask, hey, what is that thing going on this street? Or why are they digging this up? Or are we doing Halloween this year? Or how are things going to work for Festival of Lights, whatever the case is. So what I try to do with our team here at the city, we try to anticipate what a lot of people want to know based on what we hear, based on we get hundreds of emails every single day, calls, texts, people. So today it's so much different than it used to be. At one time you phoned, and then eventually they added things like email and then texting and then social media with multiple platforms to reach out. And every once in a while, I even get a handwritten letter. So I have to tell you, those are the classics. Those are my favorites. And I love when someone takes the time to put pen to paper. And oftentimes they're seniors, but not always. And I read every note that I get. So hopefully we're going to cover on all the high points, and at the end, anything that I missed or anything else that you want to talk about or more detail, I'm here at your pleasure. So Vern, and at any point, if you need to stop me for whatever reason, because someone wants to ask, or you have a question, or you can't hear me, just give me the signal, cut me off, whatever. You're the moderator, you're in charge. So
Will do, Jim.
all
I
right,
think we'll be
thank
fine.
you. So here I am. I've been mayor now for 10 years. I can't believe it. It seems like yesterday, and so much has happened. And I'll start off by saying this. COVID is unlike anything else. And I know we all know that. And, I've got a lot of good mentors that I lean on for advice and experience. And I don't need to make all the mistakes myself, although sometimes it looks like I do. Believe it or not, I avoid some of them. But I like to call one of my mentors is Gordon Krantz. He's the mayor of Milton. He's the longest serving mayor in Canadian history, even longer than Hazel now. He's the mayor of Milton, the fastest growing city in Canada. He's been 40 years as mayor. Incredible. And he's a great guy. And I've asked him a few times for advice here or there, just bounce things off of him. And so I said, Gord, I have to ask you, what's this like compared to, say, SARS or 9/11 or some other major events? And he said, not even remotely close. He said, everything else that you just mentioned was a ripple. This is a tsunami. There's nothing to compare it to. So for anybody out there that's a little still stunned, I think we're getting used to that feeling of stunned. It doesn't phase us to wear a mask now. It doesn't phase us to have a limit on toilet paper at the grocery store. It doesn't phase us to have a lineup at the bank. We just expect it. We anticipate it. And I think resilience and adapting is part of our DNA. So we will. And in Niagara Falls, we've been challenged many times with all the challenges I just mentioned. We always rise above it, whatever it is. So we'll rise above this, and we're going to land on our feet. All of us here in Niagara will land on our feet, and we're doing quite well, all things considered. I was looking at the COVID numbers. Yesterday was 12 or 13. The day before was 9, I believe, or they're like single digit anyway. And our numbers, all things considering, that we get millions of people here in Niagara Falls, you think our numbers would spike, and they haven't. We've done a very good job for lots of reasons, but today's not about patting ourselves on the back. It's about giving you an update. So I'm going to jump in right now with one of the big hot topics, and that's Costco. So a little bit of history lesson. Back in the 90s, they were originally called Price Club, and they originally tried to come into Niagara Falls on Mountain Road. So this was something that the council of the day made a decision to say no. They were feeling too much pressure from all the retailers in town at that time. A lot of retailers who are no longer here. A&P, Dominion, Safeway, Niagara Farms, the list goes on, and they're all gone. They're all new retailers, and you know how fast things change. And the Fortune 500s of yesterday, a lot of them are completely gone. And then we've got these new companies that just started in the last 20 to 30 years, these little companies like eBay and Amazon. So it's really interesting that now here we are 30 some odd years later, they're in Niagara Falls with their bigger, better version. So this store will be close to twice the size of the St. Catharines store, full service. And the part a lot of people are really excited about is the gas bar. And that'll be in the southwest corner with multiple pumps. So people are really pumped. That's what I just thought of. That's kind of funny, I guess, gas bars. But Well, you get what you pay for, and as you know, I was free. So in terms of what that's going to do for that retail node, that end of the city, Niagara Square, who is 30 years ahead of its time. You know, the Niagara Square opened up in the 70s, and unfortunately, it was ahead of its time. The growth of the city didn't happen, but now it is. We're exploding. The whole region's absolutely on fire. So we're really excited. We anticipate Costco opening up in 3 weeks. There'll be a big grand opening. We know there's a lot of people really excited about it. So get ready. It'll be there in time for Christmas. So that'll mean 200 new jobs, and they're going to redevelop the Costco in St. Catharines. And that one's going to become more of a business place where, like, long time ago, you used to go to Loeb or Link and you wanted to buy business supplies and styrofoam package and coffee containers and everything else to supply your business. So it'll actually be great for the city. And the net difference is 200 new jobs. So we're excited. Next big, huge thing is the hospital. So the Niagara South Hospital, and you can see in the picture there, the field that it's going to locate on, the 50 acres, 30 of which was donated by the Grassel family. We're really excited. A lot of work has gone into this. We've got a beautiful Niagara North Hospital in St. Catharines. Now the Niagara South Hospital will be here in Niagara Falls. It'll be state-of-the-art artificial learning, AI, machine learning. It'll be all of the absolute latest. And what's really neat about it, we're going to break ground right now. Even with COVID, we have not stopped the planning. Yes, COVID did definitely get in the way of a lot of things, but we have marched forward. We didn't want to wait for anything. We wanted to keep moving forward. And certainly healthcare is never going to slow down. Right next to the hospital, we're going to have a 50-acre medical business park. We've got a lot of interest from people all around. And that is going to be such a great thing to have. So many people now, they like to make sure that they locate not too far from a hospital when they move to town. So this is going to be the latest hospital. And this is an interesting part. All hospitals built since SARS have been redesigned because at one time they had a shared HVAC system. And the problem with that is when you have a virus in the air, you suck it into the HVAC and you spread it to the other rooms. So all the new hospitals have individually ventilated rooms so that kind of thing doesn't happen. So with each hospital, with each pandemic, we learn and the hospitals become better and better. This hospital will be the absolute latest, and it will have all of the new digital technologies that prior hospitals have not had. So everyone should be excited. We're expecting to break ground 2022 and opening 2026. So that's going to
Oh,
create
Mr.
a lot of
Mayor,
excitement. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
We have a technical problem. You probably noticed we have about 30 people waiting to get in,
Oh,
and for some reason they're not able to get through the door. So do we have a choice here? We can continue on for the recording, or we could pause for a second
yeah, pause.
and let's pause if you're okay with that. And
Okay.
I just got this chat notice that came up a minute ago,
Okay.
and so if you're okay with that, I'd rather have these people join us. It'll add to the questions too
Yeah.
as they hear what you have to say. So I'll leave it up to you as to whether you wish to go back on any slides or whatever your call.
I'm
Um,
good with whatever. You're a moderator, Vern. You tell me how you want it done and I'll do it.
but it looks like we're maybe breaking in with attendees now. I'm not sure what happened. They might have ended up in a waiting room by mistake. I'm not sure. So we'll just give it a second if that's okay.
Sure. Sure.
Great presentation, by the way. Thank you so much. It's awesome.
Do I have to tell the jokes over again?
Well, if you want to. Oh, there's no waiting room, so we're trying to find out what the issue is here.
No problem. Take your time.
It's been really interesting, by the way. With who we've heard to date, we had Fort Erie, Waynfleet, and Welland, and all three mayors had a really interesting story to say. And personally, it just really brought to the floor the mosaic we have in our communities. The contrasts are just amazing. And each one did a great job, exploring their particular domain and area of interest. It's been really enlightening to hear it all.
Well, what I like about Mayor Junkin in Pelham is he's always got that bridge behind him. And we always joke, we always ask him, he's got that inset into his background. And I always ask him, are you trying to sell that bridge, Mayor? And I'm just curious.
It was interesting hearing Mayor Campion talk about Empire Homes coming into the Dane City area and helping to finance the Dane City Bridge. So interesting public part, a private public partnership arrangement there of sorts. So
That's
it
a
was,
nice thing when you get developers coming in, and we've worked very closely with Empire. They've built lots of homes in Niagara Falls too, that
yeah,
it's to their benefit to make things better for the residents of their community. So that's when you get these extra, you get development charges, and then you get investments by them. Because then they can ask for more for the house when it's better, convenient for the people living there. So it's a nice symbiotic kind of relationship.
sure is, sure is. So that's working well, and Waynfleet, that being a rural community that is an essential worker industry, in a lot of cases, it really didn't affect them a lot.
Right.
They,
Yeah.
the farmers kept on plowing the fields and doing their jobs and feeding chickens and so forth, so it's really interesting seeing those contrasts where in some cases it's really devastating. In other cases, it really didn't matter too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I buy groceries, I still had to wait in line, but beyond that, I was on the farm for 6 days out of 7, and so it was really interesting seeing that.
That's awesome.
And in your case, I mean, one of the largest world attractions, and and how to handle that, hotel beds left empty and so forth. It's there's an economic devastation there to
Oh,
speak of, but as well many positive stories.
yep. I agree. Absolutely. So a lot of
So
people excited about the Costco. I know that that's going to be so nice.
yeah,
I,
November 13.
yeah, that's the tentative date, but I mean, we don't know. It could change subject to everything. But
Yeah,
it's funny. I love going to the one in St. Catharines, except that it's just a nightmare with traffic at that end of town, and it
can't get
was.
in.
Oh, it's just been a challenge for everybody. So a lot of
Yeah,
people won't go there for the same reason that people like to go there. And unfortunately, it doesn't work well for Costco. So this is what we're good. Hopefully, they'll get the cake and eat it too by having the two locations. So all the business people can go and buy their business supplies, and then the general population can go to this one. Or, I mean, I'm sure some will go back and forth, but it'll be good. I think it'll be serving the residents much better than just the one.
and it's not a long drive from St. Catharines to Niagara Falls on the QW.
Oh, and although, of course, that was one of the arguments. It's too far to go. Said, listen, if it's not too far for 14 million people to go, I'm sure that, some people going shopping can drive here.
We can make it.
Well, I always laugh when people talk about the commute. Oh, I got to commute all the way to Welland. I go, that's a commute? My gosh, my dad and one of my brothers commuted every day from Niagara Falls to Toronto every day for 30 years. And in the crazy traffic, I go, here. I always joke when people want to move here. I said, well, you always want to avoid the traffic jams because sometimes there can be up to 5 cars. So it's crazy.
Intersection.
Oh yeah. And I said, in crime, oh, the only crime is if you pay too much for peaches. That's how it is here in Niagara. So it's funny that it's that backhanded compliment to the region that I love to give to our friends from outside of the area.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
On my street, we still have change boxes at the farmers' stands where they just put the money into the change box and
Isn't
take the
that
fruit.
great?
Oh, that to me just speaks wonders. It's just awesome.
I
Yeah,
dropped my
it's
son
great.
off at Shirkston the other day to visit one of his buddies. And on the way back, it was great. I bought some wood for my fireplace and I just put the money inside of the little canister truss system. And I think, how great is that? I was just excited that I could do that and that they trusted
Me
me
too.
to not grab an extra
I know.
log, and so,
Exactly.
yeah,
That is so
I
cool.
like that. It's
So,
nice.
yeah. Well, let's get underway, and we're slowly trickling up, and so just for the sake of those that did come on and maybe have to leave early, if that's okay with you, Mayor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So where would you like me to,
Up to you if you wanted to quickly snap back to the
sure.
to the Costco or whatever else, and whatever you feel you want to
Sure.
cover.
So maybe I'll just skip the preamble and,
Why not?
but the fact is this, Niagara Falls is the number one leisure destination in Canada. We get 14 million people here. Here we've been devastated. 40,000 people count on tourism to put food on the table. 40.
Wow.
And you put that into perspective, and we touch every single community in this region. and including the biggest employer in the region, which is the casino, with more than 4,000 good paying jobs, and people in every single community in our region affected and devastated. And I've had people stop me, Vern, and say, although I'm grateful for the CERB, $2,000 a month is not enough to raise a family on. And I can absolutely empathize with that.
Yeah.
And I can understand why they're concerned. So it's our objective to try to get open in a safe way. And I know there's two schools. We got the one school of thought, shut it all down. And typically that's someone whose income is not dependent on the economy. Maybe someone they're independently rich, or they've got money coming in, they don't worry about it. But that's not the majority. The majority of people are very concerned. They got mortgages, rent, food, education, a lot of things. They need their income. So it was always incumbent upon us to come up with a safe way to open. And that's why we created Niagara Falls safetoplay.ca and safetostay.ca. And of course, the critics were criticizing, as they always do, and saying, oh, you're going to be Florida North, you're going to have this, you're going to have that. In the end, the numbers don't lie. And our numbers were right in the middle of the pack of everyone. So we were very successful at being able to open, being able to get some people back to work. And I can tell you, and Niagara Falls, along with all the other cities in the region, we're aggressively helping restaurants and businesses open their patios and expand them onto road allowances and public areas, sidewalks. And we tried to do it here in Niagara Falls. We had a 24-hour turnaround period, sometimes less, no charges, no permit fees. Work closely with AGCO to help them open up, because we knew you had to space out in distance. Well, how do you do that? And we just blew open the doors, and this was the summer of the patio. And as a matter of fact, in Toronto, they're keeping patios open the rest of the year. Heating lamps have become very, very popular for patios. So it's one more way for people to be safe and feel safe, because we know it's safer outside than it is inside. The transmission rates are extremely low. And we figured if that's going to help our businesses, then let's do it. We had some businesses, I'll tell you, go from facing bankruptcy to some of them had the best summer they've ever had. So there are a lot of good stories amongst the sad stories. And we definitely lost some businesses. And it's been definitely sad in a lot of instances, but we did all that we could to minimize the damage. So on to the good news. Costco, we've been full steam ahead. The new Costco in Niagara Falls is going to open up in Niagara Falls. It's going to create a net 200 new jobs in Niagara. This will be a full service store. It'll be significantly bigger than the one currently in St. Catharines. And the biggest thing that people are really excited about is the gas station, because typically when you're a member, you can buy gas significantly lower than you typically could. And we know a lot of people will be lining up for that. I don't want to, might as well say it twice. People are pumped about the new gas station. So anyway, appreciate the sympathy laugh there, but regardless, we're really happy and excited. And that whole area has been redeveloped, that whole retail node at Niagara Square, which was dying. And now it's been invigorated. And we've got a lineup of retailers that want to locate there, because that is a key retail node. The only Lowe's in the region is located there. This will be the big Costco in the region. Got a Walmart superstore across the highway. The MTO's already upgraded the overpass and the clover leafs, on ramps and off ramps. So that area is prepared for the growth. It's the big growth of Niagara Falls, with the south and the west part of Niagara Falls, all the new people moving here, the new schools. That's the whole growth node. Unfortunately, Niagara Square was 30 years ahead of its time, but now it's catching up to the vision of the people that were building the city beforehand. So we're really excited about that. And I know we're expecting them to open up in a few weeks, and just in time for Christmas, so you can do all your shopping. So that's coming up. Next thing we're really excited about, Vern, is the new hospital. We've got a beautiful Niagara South Hospital opening up in Niagara Falls. And this will be a little bit bigger than the St. Catharines Hospital servicing Niagara North. It'll have state-of-the-art machine learning, artificial intelligence, with all the latest technologies and the latest best practices and things that I mentioned earlier, such as after SARS, we understood that you don't want a shared HVAC system, because then you just spread the virus, you spread the germs throughout the rooms. They're all now individually ventilated. And those are the kind of technologies and the kind of advances that have happened now to control the spread of any new pandemics that may come forward. The other thing, as I mentioned, it's digitally advanced. This hospital will be the latest And because of that, it's going to attract some of the brightest and best minds. We're working closely with hospitals and McMaster, and of course here at the Niagara Health System. So we're very, very excited about all of our educational partnerships and what this is going to mean. It's going to bring the best healthcare for the residents of Niagara, and specifically those living in the south of Niagara. We're really excited. We expect to break ground in 2022 and open up in 2026. So we've been working very hard. It hasn't stopped, and it all started with a 30-acre land donation by the Grassville family that we're very, very grateful for. We're grateful that the province has been working with us hand in glove to move this forward. And in just the next few years, we're going to be cutting a ribbon on this location. We're really excited about it. So great news. As far as approvals, I can tell you right now, our business park, we only have 2 lots left, Fern. It's been very, very popular. So we're working hard to come up with an industrial land strategy to come up with new land, because we have more and more manufacturers coming every day that recognize the labor force that we have in Niagara, the proximity to the US border, how close we are to the GTA. And really, at the end of the day, it's the quality of life. Because especially now during the pandemic, we've come to realize a lot more people are working from home, and that's going to be more of the rule than the exception going forward. A lot of companies have announced that this is going to be the way forward. And as a result, a lot of people are moving into Niagara. And that's why we're having a real estate boom right now. And it's not going to slow down. It's not a bubble, it's a boom, because people realize with digital technology, you're able to work from home and you can work anywhere in the world from your living room. So it's going to be beautiful having that. And our industrial park, of course, is going to grow along with it. Some recent approvals too. We've got a new approval for a new development at the old Cupola sports site, the corner of Stanley and Ferry Avenue, and Stanley Avenue and Ferry Street. And there we're going to do a new development. It's going to be a $200 million, 30-story condo hotel mix. We're really excited about what's going to happen there. And keep your eyes open. They're expecting to break ground in the spring. They've already demolished the old building. And it'll be another way of reaching out and trying to meet the demand of people that want to move to Niagara Falls, and a lot of people that want to work in the service sector, but they want to live close by so they can walk to work. So a lot of people, I think, will be living in those condos that'll work in the tourism sector. Moving on, mayors working together, the board of mayors. I can tell you I'm in regular contact with my mayor counterparts on both sides of the border, as well as all of the border city mayors in Ontario. We have regular conferences, regular discussions around the borders. I can tell you right now, there's not been an appetite for opening the borders until we can do it in a safe way. We knew early on that there wouldn't be any action until after the US election, November the 3rd. And then whenever the results become apparent, which who knows what's going to happen there, we'll see how that one plays out. But we're definitely keeping an eye on the border. In Niagara Falls, to put it in perspective, 25% of the 14 million tourists come from the US. So it has a big impact on us here, specifically in Niagara Falls. And that 25% of the tourists represent 50% of the revenue. So you can understand how much it's been devastating in Niagara Falls. And a lot of our hotels are running at 10% capacity. And for all the small business people out there, if you're running your business at 10%, how well would you be able to pay the bills? I mean, that's a rhetorical question, but you can just imagine how devastating. And nobody planned for this because nobody saw it coming. You know, this was just out of left field and no one expected the devastation, but we're rolling with it. We're in constant conversation. We're sharing any kind of technology and ideas on it, but we're keeping our eye on the border. So of course, you have to cut the cloth to fit the suit. So what are we doing for taxes? Now, to put it into perspective, approximately 3/4 of our assessment base is residential. Approximately 22% is commercial, and that represents the tourist area, the hotels, the restaurants, and they're hemorrhaging. And here's some people said, well, geez, do you just give the hotel operators a break? Of course, we can't do that. That's bonusing. Whatever we offer to one sector, we have to offer to all the sectors. So right now, typically, when anyone is late on their taxes throughout Niagara, all the municipalities charge 15% penalty on their late taxes, 15%, which is pretty high. And that's pretty much standard across the province. Well, we've lowered that now to 8%, and we're even looking at potentially lowering it. Now, put it in perspective, people would say, well, that makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you? You don't pay that to borrow your money. Why wouldn't you lower that? Well, we count on sometimes two, upwards of $3 million a year coming in on late taxes, having that penalty applied. So that changes our operating budget because we don't have that revenue coming in. And not that you want to plan on people being late getting interest, but of course you have to account for it. And we have counted on it. So we've got to take everything into account, because if these businesses close, not only will they not be paying their late fees, they won't be paying anything. So we're in this together. We need to help them. And that's why we're counting on upper levels of government helping to plug the holes so that everybody can continue to pay their taxes. And of course, municipalities are not allowed to carry forward a deficit. So it puts us in a difficult spot when we have to balance our books. And the major source of revenue is property taxes. So what do? You can't pave roads. You can't plow roads. You can't do anything without revenue from property taxes. So it's a tricky situation. The commercial sector has been hit the hardest by far. And we're working closely with, like I say, our provincial and federal counterparts to help to fix this situation. It's very, very difficult. Here at the city, what have we done? Well, I can tell you we've had more than 25 retirements. We've been doing a staggered approach to staffing. We've closed some of our facilities. We've cut back on hours. We've done everything that we can do to make sure that we're servicing people, because we are deemed an essential service. We can't stop servicing, but at the same time, we're trying to do it in the most efficient way and trying to be reactive to the amount of money and also the hemorrhaging that's happening with a lot of the cases and a lot of the situations with our businesses in the community. Now, a quick update on infrastructure. And by the way, I've got altogether 30 slides. I'm going to try to keep this to about a minute a slide so that we've got time for Q&A afterward. This year, we've spent about $23 million in construction. And some people say, well, why don't you just stop that? Well, you plan your construction and your infrastructure the year before. You go to tender, you make your commitments, you sign your contracts. So a lot of things were in the works already. So we are moving forward on that. A lot of these projects are very, very important. They're sewers, they're sidewalks, they're roads, things that need to get constructed. You know, a lot of the time, it's a lot less expensive to repair something than to have to replace it. So we're trying to be smart with our money. We're still moving forward with most of our major projects. One of the ones we're not going to do yet, it's been delayed, is the roundabout partnership with the Niagara Parks Commission at Whirlpool Road and River Road. Some of these we've paused. Some of our playgrounds we've slowed down on, but I will say that we're still moving forward with our trails. We've got a goal to connect one end of the city to the other, and on both ends to the Niagara Parks Commission beautiful trail. And the way we're going to do that is by finishing off our trail system. And you know, it's one thing during COVID we've come to realize: people need their exercise. Sometimes there's too much cortisol, too much stress, too much anxiety. And we know outside is safe. We know that you can get outside, get some exercise, get some more serotonin flowing. We want to encourage people to go out on our trails, get exercise, do things outside. So the trails are moving forward. Our transit, you know, as we're working closely with the region to regionalize our transit, and the Canadian Drive Transit Hub, which will be right where the Costco is. That's going to be at the Niagara Square. That's where all the growth is in the city. And we're really excited about what's going to happen. There'll be room for people to wait inside, out of the rain, out of the snow. We'll have our regular sized 40-foot buses and our 60-foot articulated buses. This will be a hub. It'll be a transfer station for people that'll be going to Brock University and Niagara College, people that have to go to their hospital appointments and doctor's appointments. So we want to make it as comfortable as possible for people to use our transit. Of course, transit's being used in a reduced way because of distancing, but we're still moving forward because we will come out of this COVID, and we're going to need to worry about the world after COVID. So you don't stop planning, you don't stop preparing, you maybe just pivot a little bit so that we prepare for the way the new world's going to be. The new traffic lights on the corner of Morrison Street, right across from the Zehrs and the new Canadian Tire Niagara Falls, that we know used to be a big retail node when Walmart was there. And we know now with the Canadian Tire Superstore being there and all the development in that area, it's going to be a challenge to get in and out, especially when Christmas shopping season kicks in. So we're working with the region to put in a new set of streetlights, all paid for through development charges. And hopefully that'll help keep people able to get into that retail node in a safe way and in an efficient way. Parks and amenities. So this past spring and summer, residents have rediscovered their cities, their backyards, their parks. swimming areas, docks, all recreational things, because we know that people need their exercise, they need their sunshine, they need their fresh air. As I mentioned earlier, they need their serotonin. They need to get outside and do that. And we're making sure that we're continuing to invest in all the recreational things that we have in the city. One park in particular I'd just like to highlight is John Allen Park. John Allen Park is a project we started working on a couple of years ago. And now I'm proud to say we cut the ribbon, we opened it up. We've got tennis courts, pickleball, an outside area, retention pond to have an outside skating area. We've got basketball courts and hockey, road hockey. We've got a cricket pitch out there, a new play structure with the AstroTurf, so you don't have any glass or anything hidden in wood chips. It's a great, beautiful park in the south end where all the growth is happening to service all the residents there, and in a place where people can get outside. And pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in North America right now. For anyone who hasn't played it, it's kind of like tennis, but on a smaller court, and paddleball. It's a little bit of a combination of sports, and it's fun. There's a lot of stories around where it got its name. My favorite one is the family that created pickleball a number of years ago, and they had a dog named Pickles, and the dog would take the ball and run off, and they'd get it back and they'd bring it back, and so they were calling it pickleball. And there's a couple of versions. That's my favorite version, Vern. So I just want to share that little story. I mentioned earlier about the trails in Niagara Falls, our Millennium Trail I mentioned earlier. I don't need to repeat too much, but wow, what a neat way to rediscover this. Originally, they called this a scar in the city when they used to build the open trenches for the canal system to create hydroelectric energy at Sir Adam Beck, because now they build tunnels, of course, and these scars, we've turned them into birthmarks, turned them into beauty marks. And now we put this trail system, and now you've got songbirds, wild turkeys, beautiful nature that people can really enjoy and exercise and connect neighborhoods, connect parks, and connect to the Niagara Parks Commission's beautiful trail system. So you can rollerblade, walk, they're all accessible if you're in a wheelchair, whatever the case may be. And we're so excited and proud. We're moving forward with these trails. And within the next year to 2 years, we'll have it completed from one end of the city to the other. And our goal eventually is to be a spider web of trails throughout the city, so that you don't have to go on the road if you don't want to, Vern. And I know when I was a kid, I don't know how many times I got hit by side view mirrors riding my bike to work. And you know, we want to have a city that you don't have to go on the road, and it's safe. And we've come to realize during COVID how important bicycles, bicycle trails, and pedestrian trails are. So we're going to continue on our commitment for the Millennium Trail continuation. Oaks Park, we're going through a master redevelopment there. A few things, we're rebuilding the baseball diamond, which will be a big part of the Canada Summer Games, which are now, of course, delayed by a year to 2022. And as well, we just resurfaced our walking track, which is so popular, especially people with knee and hip problems, a nice cushiony track to walk on. We've got new lights going in that aren't going to spill over into the neighborhoods. That'll be more directed down to the track with our new lighting technology, which will be less to operate. So we're excited about that too. Again, a real focus on recreation for the residents of Niagara Falls. You know, sewers, sidewalks, water lines, roads, they're not sexy, and they're not things that people get excited about necessarily. But when you can give them play spaces, places to let their hair down, places to unwind, places to meet their neighbors, that's what really builds a quality of life for a community. And we're happy that we're investing in people's playtime, because that's important. We work hard, we should be able to play hard as well. Moving along, we removed an old overpass that we had at the end of Robinson Street that didn't seem to really go anywhere. It's been removed, and now you can see we've turned it into a beautiful pedestrian walkway extension, trying to make it easier to get from A to B for residents and for visitors to the city. Casinos, I mentioned earlier, they're the #1 employer in the region with over 4,000 good jobs. Of course, they're closed. They were told they could open for 50 people at a time. And to put that into perspective, some people said, well, why wouldn't they open up for the 50 people? You know, they can handle 11,000 at a time. I did tour the casinos. They spent $1 million getting ready for COVID. And it's really unfortunate. They brought in an epidemiologist. They've got enough plexiglass to cover an NHL-sized ice surface. They used all the latest best practices and technologies, and they're told 50, that's it. So you can go to a department store and 600 can be allowed in. You can go into some restaurants that allow several hundred, but here you've got a casino with significant space and capacity for 11,000. They're allowed 50. So of course, it's not worth turning the lights on for that. And we're waiting. We're waiting for some negotiations with OLG and with the province. But in the meantime, it's unfortunate. I feel for the people that have been put out of work and displaced. We're having regular discussions with the casino, regular discussions and meetings with Ontario Lottery and Gaming, and with the province, so that we can work toward opening them in a safe way, something that's reasonable and sustainable. And unfortunately, 50 is a random number. We've had communication with Dr. Williams, a provincial medical officer of health. No one can justify or show us the metrics on how they came up with these numbers. We know they're random, and we're asking them just to come down and have some deliberate numbers and take a tour of the casino, see what we saw, and give us advice on how we can open in a safe way. And it's not about gambling. It's about the economy. It's about jobs. Of course, we're very concerned about people's physical health, equally concerned about their financial health and their mental health. It all ties together. One is not in isolation of the others. They're all part of the same. And we want to make sure that we look at keeping all the plates in the air without any hitting the ground. So we've got some events and some initiatives, and our goal always, Vern, was to not shut things down, to keep things running in a safe way. So we had one really neat event that took place last Saturday, our curbside pickup. We had that on the 24th, and what a real neat idea. That saying that one man's junk is another man's treasure. Well, 7 a.m., people had to have their junk at the curb. And it could be toys your kids don't use anymore. It could be furniture. It could be appliances. It could be whatever. And we were blown away. People were blown away. They put stuff out at the curb by 8 o'clock. Almost everything was gone. So what does that mean? It means we didn't have to fill the landfills. It meant some people did not have to go out and buy things. They could gently use things and repurpose them. It meant some people are decluttering and they've got more space in their houses. And I got to tell you, that is one of the best feelings in the world. Vern, I've done that myself recently, where I've decluttered. I've got a policy in my house. It sounds like it's a business, but I said, something goes in, what's going out? I don't want junk. I don't want clutter. We don't need things to just be stored in the house. Let's give everything a purpose. And so that's what this day did. And we had great feedback. I think we're going to do more of these curbside pickups, and we encourage all of the municipalities, give it a shot. It was a huge success. It was a lot of fun. And people are saying, when's the next one already? Also Halloween. Yes, Halloween will take place in Niagara Falls. We always intended for it to, and we thought it's just going to look a little different this year. That's all. So how can we do these things in a safe way? Well, we're saying don't go in a pack of kids or a herd of kids. This year, just go with your brother and your sister. Go in a little cohort of maybe a couple friends or maybe a couple relatives, and keep your mask on, keep your distance, wash your hands. And the people giving out candies were saying, just make sure you wear your mask. And I can tell you, Vern, at my house, I'm going to use a pair of tongs, and I'm going to hand out chips, and I'm going to drop them in the kids' little pumpkins. And I want them to be able to do this in a safe way. It's a fun way. And there's no reason for us not to do it if we can do it and if we feel comfortable doing it. So one of the things we did to make things more fun this year, Chris Dabrowski, one of our city councilors, created the Spooky Awards. And this is going to be a real spooktacular way to celebrate Halloween. And we've got over 50 families who decorated their houses who entered into the competition. So we have an officially judged part of this, and then we've got the People's Choice Awards. And you can drive around starting tonight and right up until Halloween, this Saturday night, Vern. And you can take your family, take your hot chocolate, and you can take your marshmallows and drive around and judge these houses. And all you got to do is go on the city's website, niagarafalls.ca, and you could download the spooky map, and you could know where they are, and you can rate them. It's so simple, in a fun way. You can drive in your little protected vehicle and experience Halloween a little bit differently this year. Plato long time ago came up with a quote, and he said, necessity is the mother of invention. So we're trying to be creative. We're trying to pivot. We're trying to look at opportunities, new opportunities. Because, sometimes we look back, some of the greatest inventions were actually accidents. Everything from Velcro to Teflon to 3M sticky notes, Post-it notes. There's so many great examples of amazing things that happen by accident, or they happen because they had to happen. So I don't look at this only from a negative perspective. I look at it as a new opportunity for us to be creative, come up with new ideas. So moving along, Remembrance Day ceremony this year will take place. We're combining the Niagara Falls and Chippewa Remembrance Day events that'll take place at 10:45 on Wednesday, the 11th of November, of course, and it'll take place online. All you have to do is click on the link, the YouTube link on niagarafalls.ca, our homepage, and you can participate like you have in the past. It'll just be different this year. This year, our volunteer awards will take place. And again, rather than being at Club Italia with, 500 of our wonderful volunteers, this year it'll be online. And we've added an extra part that we're really promoting this year, Vern. We created a number of years ago, our staff came up with a great idea called the BNF Awards, the B Niagara Falls Awards, Vern. And the thing that I like about the BNF Awards, we like to call this a double entendre. And I like to call it that because I feel cool when I say it. I feel cultured when I say entendre. And anyway, the BNF Awards, and why is that a double entendre? Because it's B Niagara Falls. And when you say it together and you say BNF, it sounds like be enough. You like that, Vern? I can see
Pretty
by your
good.
nod
Pretty
of
good. I
approval.
like it.
I
Not
see your
bad.
nod of
Not
approval.
bad.
So
A double entendre.
double entendre. Be enough, BNF. So we haven't won any awards for the creativity yet. I'm sure one day we'll get an award for that. But anyway, seriously, we're looking for. There's a lot of people that stepped up, Vern, during COVID. Some of them were making masks. Some of them were caregivers that are delivering food to people that were shut in or afraid to go out. They were cutting the grass for people. A lot of people stepped up and really took this as an opportunity to help other people. And we're saying, why don't you recognize these people for a BNF award and go on the city's website, again, niagarafalls.ca. That's where it all happens. Go to the website, everything's there, and you can download an application. It's so easy. There's just a couple of fields to fill out. The nomination date to close is tomorrow, Vern. So tomorrow, which is Friday. So anybody that's Friday, the 30th of October. So some people watching this later, please go on. I'm sure there's somebody you can think of that would be worthy of this wonderful double entendre award of BNF. And you can recognize them. And we know that's not why they do it, but just the same, that's why we want to recognize them. And we want to encourage other people to do the same. Don't just think about how crappy it is for you right now because of this or because of that. There's always somebody who's got it worse, and it's all about helping each other. We say this often. We're all in this together. One of the other award events is the Winter Festival of Lights, the OPG Winter Festival of Lights. This year, Vern, is the 38th annual Winter Festival of Lights, and it begins on Saturday, the 14th of November. It'll go right through till Sunday, January the 10th. So that starts on Saturday, November the 14th. And something else that takes place that special day will be our Santa Claus parade. So this year, Vern, we are still doing it. We're not canceling. If you notice around here, we don't cancel anything. We just find a way to do it in a safe way, because canceling is the easiest way to just walk away from a challenge. And we think, no, let's be more creative. We can do better. Let's come up with a way to deliver it, but just in a different way. And here we are. And let me tell you about it, Vern. So Saturday, November the 14th, from 3 till 5 p.m., it's going to take place on Queen Street, downtown Niagara Falls, as it always has. But normally a parade drives by and the and the viewers and spectators are stationary. Well, we're going to do a reverse this year. We're calling it a drive-through parade. Some call it a drive-by parade. Some people call it a lot of different things. But it's going to be a lot of fun this year, where you're going to park along Victoria Avenue. You can start at 2 p.m. and on the east side. That's the same side as the library. And we're going to have parade marshals that'll let you know, okay, it's time to come. So in the safety of your vehicle, you can drive down the parade and you'll see all sorts of neat things. We're going to have entertainment. We're going to have inflatables. We're going to have a lot of neat surprises. I don't want to spoil the surprises. And of course, jolly old Saint Nick himself will be there to greet all the families and all the kids. And when the parade is done, at the end of the parade, there'll be a place that you can drop off food for the food bank. So we're saying collect some non-perishables. And for those of you that don't have vehicles, not to worry, we're going to have some of our buses at the top of Queen Street, right at Valleyway, where you can jump on the Santa shuttle and it'll drive you down through the parade route, and you'll have that same opportunity as everybody with their vehicles. So again, that's going to be Saturday, November the 14th. The Santa Claus parade will be from 3 until 5 p.m. And then after, you'll be able to take a drive with your family and go see the OPG Winter Festival of Lights, which is going to be so much fun. And for us, I know in my family, Vern, it's always a kickoff to the Christmas season is the Santa Claus parade and the Festival of Lights. And we always love it. We grab our hot chocolates, grab some Timbits, we go for a drive, we go check out the millions of lights. And it's just so spectacular, so much fun. And one of the things we often take for granted, that living right here, we get to do these great things. And it's the dichotomy of a city of less than 100,000, but we swing way above our weight. That the fact that we bring in 14 million people, you get great amenities, great entertainment, great restaurants, and great things like this. So mark that in your calendar, Saturday, November the 14th, to see Santa Claus and to check out the Winter Festival of Lights. And Vern, there's so many things, but I'm going to call it there and open it up. If you've got any questions or comments or anything like that, I tried to hit the high points and try to anticipate some of the things people are curious about. And at this point, if you've got anything, I'm open to answer any questions or give you any comments.
Mayor Diodati, personally, I have to say, you're just blowing it out of the park. I mean, this is just amazing. In thinking about it, you mentioned Gordon Krantz, Mayor of Milton, and being a great mentor for you and so forth. But let's face it, there's probably not another mayor in North America that has your playbook. Really, I mean, you have a unique playbook that you cannot carbon copy anybody else. 100,000 people, 14 million visitors, and how to handle that. How to get people back to work, how to do it as best you can, get people to agree and live with the fact that American visitors are not allowed in, on and on and on. So congratulations for doing a great job at a very difficult time, because that is just amazing.
Well, Vern,
So
if I
way
could
to
just
go.
say, I'm very fortunate. I'm blessed. I've got an amazing team I get to work with. First of all, I've got a council who gets it, and they're very supportive, and they're always there to give us the support we need. And staff, our team here at City Hall, honestly, are outstanding, and I mean that. We have our emergency operations calls on every issue. We bounce everything off everybody. No decisions are made unilaterally. We don't take anything lightly. We bounce it through the group. We filter it through. Everybody throws their little ingredient into the mix, and then we put it in the oven and bake it up. And I'm going to tell you, I'm really, really lucky. We've got a lot of supportive people all around us. I appreciate the compliments, and I'll accept them on behalf of the whole team. So thank you.
No, it's just awesome. Way to go. Yeah, so Niagara's lucky to have you around at this point in time, that's for sure. Obviously, it's in speaking with Mayor Redekop, and I'm sure yourself, the border city issue and U.S. being left out of entry into Canada and so on and so forth. I think we're all waiting for federal actions as to when that eases up and so forth. But is there anything else that you're able to talk about with these border city mayors that you could shed light on to us in terms of what their feelings are? Do the U.S. mayors all agree, or are they disagreeing with us? And how's that dynamic taking place in those discussions?
Well, that's a great question. It's kind of funny because if you recall at the beginning of this, New York State their numbers were through the roof, and Ontario, we're doing a really good job. So of course we're saying, well, close the borders, keep them out. We don't need that problem here. And the Americans understood it. They're a little embarrassed, and we try to do it in the nicest diplomatic way. And then it's funny because at one point the numbers went the other way. All of a sudden we're spiking and they got things under control. And Governor Cuomo did a really good job of showing leadership in New York. And so here's the situation. Outside of tourism, of course, we're all feeling it. The good thing with the staycation, people in Ontario that would normally go to the US to vacation, they've stayed here. People that would go to Florida normally have stayed here. So we have made up for some of the lost ground in that way, but we miss the things we take for granted. And this is one of the things I'll say, Vern, that I'll call it one of the good things that come out of a bad thing. In this case here, we take for granted that we can cross into the US at any time and go shopping, go visiting, go traveling. We can do whatever we want. And all of a sudden we can't. And that's when you appreciate something that you take for granted, is when you lose it. I know that when I went through my sickness a couple of years ago, that I appreciate the simplest things, just the fact that you can walk and that you can sleep and you can digest, and things that you take for granted that you shouldn't. So one of the other things, we've got a lot of cross-border business. We've got a lot of Niagara businesses who do a lot of business in the US. And their dilemma is they sell things to the US that they can't service because they can't cross the border. And we brought this up with Minister Blair, with all the cross-border mayors. And we said, this is a big problem because the US is saying, get rid of the US suppliers if they can't come across the border. So what they've been doing, and we try to point this out to the minister, is since they can't drive across the border, they drive to Toronto and they fly into the Buffalo airport, they rent a car, and then they drive to where they need to go. So we said, you're not stopping them, you're just causing them a lot of consternation, a lot of extra cost, a lot of extra aggravation. Let's come up with a way that makes sense, that's not polarized and draconian. Let's come up with something that's moderate and meaningful and makes sense, that's safe. So we said, for example, there's husbands and wives, there's people, family split. Some are on both sides of the border. Some need to go to Roswell Park to get their cancer treatments. There's some people that need to service things that they sell in the US. There's some people that need to cross. We need to have a system that you don't just show up at the border and you're at the mercy of a border guard that has to make a call. That's not fair to them. There needs to be a way, and he agreed with that, and they are coming up with ways, and they did loosen restrictions for compassionate reasons. We said there's business reasons that need to be looked at as well. So we've been having these discussions. It's highly political. And I can tell you, until the November 3rd election, we knew, and I said this in the summer, I said, I'll tell you right now, politically, nothing will happen until after the election. A lot of what's happening right now around COVID is very political, and nothing will happen until after the election. And then when will the votes be counted? I mean, in BC, they don't have the final vote count. Can you imagine in just the province of British Columbia? Imagine the US, how long that's going to take with all of the politics that's going on right now. So we're having the discussion. We know we need to get the border open. We know that we want it to be done in a safe way. And we're having those discussions right now. And it will be a gradual, like a dimmer switch, not a light switch. It's going to be a gradual thing. We all understand that. But I'll tell you something. We've come to appreciate that border that we took for granted. And a lot of people now are preparing for in the future that if ever this happens again, how will we react to it? How will we not be as impacted by something like this?
Interesting. Let me ask a question is probably not an uplifting one, and it affects certainly members of our chamber. The Stanley Avenue industrial area that includes Washington Mills, Mancuso, and Salit Steel, and so forth. As you well know, as much as anybody, they've been plagued with issues as a result of residential housing getting built around them, and an expansion of that residential housing just gotten approved by Niagara Falls Council, I think last week or so. Here are these companies that were here well before any residential development took place, and now they find themselves with Ministry of the Environment being shut down for noise, being shut down for odors, and so on and so forth. What's your read on all this, and who do we support regarding job creation and residential development all at the same time?
That's a great question, Vern, and it gives me a chance to help explain too. There's been a lot of confusion and misinformation with our industrial partners in the community, and I'll explain to you. So we've got two different, so yes, that's a very real challenge when you have residential abutting industrial and heavy industrial, because they complain about the noise, they complain about the smells, they complain about a lot of things. And it's sad that, and it's hard to believe, although some of our heavy industry has been there for generations, and some residential developments just came in, how could they possibly shut down some of these groups? But it's happening, and it's happened. So now we're making sure that we're doing a lot of things, including sound attenuating walls, sound studies, putting things in writing on title that they understand there's industry there. Well, there's a bit of confusion. So there's one development that was called Thundering Waters. That's name has changed. It's changed a couple of times to Riverfront Community. That's the one that you speak of that was recently approved. First of all, it was approved by the LPAT, the Land Planning Appeal Tribunal. They approved, the council originally approved it. It was appealed to them. That's the replacement for the Ontario Municipal Board, the OMB. And then we just recently approved plans for subdivision, secondary planning. So that was kind of more housekeeping. Well, there's a golf course in Niagara Falls called Thundering Waters, which is in the middle of a residential development that abuts heavy industrial. So that Thundering Waters, it was recently purchased by a group who is proposing that they turn it into a residential development. So people are confusing that with what used to be known as Thundering Waters. So this council has not dealt with an application. Nothing has come forward. But I can tell you, our staff in discussion with them, they will not support anything that's going to infringe on our industrial lands. And it has not come to council. And I can tell you with informal discussions of councilors, they have come and said, why are they making this proposal? There is no way we're going to be able to support something like this. Leave it as a golf course. That's how it was originally intended. And it makes sense keeping in line with the character of the neighborhood. So that there is separate from the other one that used to be Thundering Waters. And this is the one that we're having issues with. And I'll tell you, Vern, I got letters from a number of our partners in our industrial park opposing the one, thinking it was the other. So a lot of them put their letter and then retracted their letter. So we're very, very sensitive, very supportive of our industry. They're very important. They have great jobs, and they're the ones that that run under the radar. People a lot of the time don't even know they're there, and they're great jobs, and they're well known in a supply chain for many things around the world. And we are very, very supportive. So I appreciate that. We're very tuned in, and I don't think that you're going to allow residential at the cost of industrial. No way.
Let me ask an easier question. With regards to residential development, we have some, but thank you for that answer, Mayor. With regards to residential development, are we going to be exhausting our zoned residential areas in the next 3, 4, 5 years? And is this a growth boom that has to recline as a result of lack of property or land to develop on, or what's happening that way?
That's another great question. And the province has enacted Places to Grow Act not long ago, where they're encouraging us to infill. And this is a good thing. And the reason is there's a lot of empty lots or undeveloped areas within a community that should be developed. And why? Because they already have road, they already have sidewalks, they already have sewers and water, they already have transit, we already plow the roads, all the infrastructure is in place. It won't cost the municipalities anything extra if they develop there. But what they want to avoid is sprawl. Things like when you go to Calgary, just sprawled and exploded outward. And the problem is that costs a lot of money. Not today, but tomorrow when you go to replace the bridges, you go to replace the water lines. And that's why municipalities are facing major deficits with infrastructure, because nobody thought about tomorrow. They just thought about today. So having said that, we're dealing with responsible growth. And that's why people say the lots today are so small. You know, at one time your lots would be 75-foot frontage, and today a lot of them are 30-foot frontage. Well, it's all part of, and they say it's like Toronto. I said, yeah, but that's the movement to minimize the sprawl. But having said that, and because of not just COVID, already Niagara is finally within the radar of the GTA. I said we were the best kept secret for the longest time. Well, now they've discovered us. They realize they've grown north, west, east. The GO train had gone everywhere but here. Well, now the GO train's here. They realize how important Niagara is. They understand the quality of life is outstanding. And we're having explosive growth. And it's beautiful and it's nice, but there's a lot of growing pains. So our urban boundaries are being stretched now. Our growth is happening. And now with COVID, more than ever, people are realizing I can work from home. I don't need to be in an office in downtown Toronto. That's why we're having another real estate boom. Houses are selling quicker than ever for even above asking. And this is going to be the way it's going to be for a while. And the problem, if you limit the housing inventory And if you'll limit the growth, that drives up the price of the current houses and it makes it more unaffordable. So, and the other challenge is Airbnbs that are happening, which are great in one way because it's this new gig economy that allows people to make money with the assets they already own. With Uber, you can own a car, you can make some extra money. With Airbnb and the other vacation rental platforms, you can rent out rooms or your house and you can make money. And for some people who are older, who can't go back in the workforce, it's a great way to make a few extra bucks to stay in your home. It's great. But the other side of it is it uses up a lot of our housing stock, and our vacancy rate here in Niagara Falls is below 1%. So that means the rental stock goes up where it's unaffordable. There's not enough of it. We can't keep up with it. So we're creating programs in Niagara Falls to incentivize landlords to build more affordable housing. So we're giving them opportunities to want to do more. And to go back to your original question, yes, we're running out of space, and that's why we're planning for the future, but we're doing more smart planning, and we're trying to make good use of what we've got in the community. And you're going to see more mixed use, more apartment buildings, more hotel condo combos. You're seeing more of this mixed use stuff. So you don't get all one thing in one neighborhood. You get a nice mixture of everything.
Nice, nice. We actually had a question come in, and I'll read it. What is the situation and update with the development of downtown area, including Bridge Street and Victoria Avenue area? How about the roundabout projected?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so first I'll start with the roundabout. The roundabout, see, for a lot of years in Niagara Falls, we had a lot of industry in the city's north end. We had places like Cyanamid, Lubrizol, Lionite, and these companies service this end of town. Well, now they're gone. So and now we've got these big brownfields that they've been redeveloping. For example, let's take Cyanamid, which became SciTech, which is now Solvay. Their land is a big 100-acre parcel that just, it's like a big donut with a hole, and you can't get to the downtown. They're going around this big thing. Well, now Thorold Stone Road, one of our major regional arterial roads, it goes right through it, and it's now going to continue to the downtown. And here's how we're playing strategically to the future, playing to our strengths. And why does it do that? Because we got the GO train now. And the GO train is, like I say, the umbilical cord to the GTA. It is going to electrify this region, and it's going to go to a roundabout, which is going to connect Victoria Avenue, Thorold Stone Road, and Bridge Street. It's going to make an easy way. And roundabouts, you go to Europe, and that's all you see is roundabouts. And it's funny, not that long ago, 50 years plus, that's what we had here. The QEW had all roundabouts, and we got rid of them because this modern technology of using lights. And it's funny, one of those shows, Mythbuster, they tested roundabouts versus lights, and they found roundabouts are 30% more efficient. So you don't have to pay to upkeep them and replace the infrastructure. They naturally slow traffic down. You don't have to wait when there's no other traffic. You can just go, like, what it's like at midnight, you're sitting at a red light and there's no cars in any other direction. And we talk about smart technology. That's dumb technology. You're just waiting for nothing, time you'll never get back. So that's going to open up the downtown, open up the train station, open up the Gale Center, open up everything in the community. And then to the downtown, which will feed to the redevelopment of our downtown. And we've got three big things I'll say real briefly. The GO train, and all you need to do is look along any of the GO hubs to see what happened from Hamilton, Burlington, and all the way east. You go to Pickering, and you can see what happens when you put in a GO station. All development happens around it. A lot of people will live there in a condo. They won't even own a car. They'll use an Uber when they need it. You go to Manhattan, most people don't own cars. I know people well-to-do, they don't own cars. And they say, why would I own a car? Like, they look at me like I got three heads. They said, cars, they're expensive. They're a waste. You got to pay for them, store them. If I need a car, I rent one. So that's the attitude. Things are shifting and changing. And I'll tell you, driverless cars are coming next. The world is changing so fast. And what's happened with COVID? It moved us 10 years ahead with technology. So we've got the GO train, we've got CIP, Community Improvement Program for the downtown. We incentivize people to reinvest in that area. So we give you tax breaks and breaks on development charges and fees. And then the last thing is our Niagara Falls Ryerson Innovation Hub, where we're creating an entrepreneurial village, a place where we're going to incubate businesses and help them to incubate onto the street. And we're not, yes, it's nice when you land the big job, the big Amazons, and those are wonderful if you can nail things like that. But those are grand slams in the bottom of the ninth with, 2 out. These are the ones, this is the way you just kind of, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? These are the singling them to death, to use a baseball analogy, since, we said the World Series and the Dodgers seem to do well. And we're just trying to show that we're looking for the grand slam. We like to swing for the fence, but you know what? You single them to death. And that downtown is a bright spot. It's the last part. It's the last thing that I'm on my agenda that has to happen. And we will look at everything, including expropriation if we need to. If we've got some people land banking, absentee landlords, slum landlords that are just sitting on their properties doing nothing, that is unacceptable. And we're not going to sit back and allow that to happen. We don't need decay. We need investment. We need development, not decay, development. How's that? There's another one for you.
Your new
Yeah.
slogan. Yeah, Mayor Diodati, that's fantastic. I think probably more or less given our time, we should probably cut off here. And my apologies for our technical issue, but I'm sure a lot of people will go online and see this recording. Over and above that, we have registration for everybody that has come on, so we are going to be sending them this recording, so they'll have it directly. But Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for your insight. Thanks so much for your colorful nature and your jokes, and for again having a unique playbook in North America, and managing that with no other model to follow but your own. And you seem to be doing extremely well with it. So congrats on that one. Way to go.
Thanks, Vern. And if I could just throw one last thing out there, I just want to give a little plug to municipally owned business, and its timeliness is so important. And everybody in Niagara should, I think, should be really excited and proud of the forethought of people before us. We here have a municipally owned asset that is so important here. And I'm not talking about the airports, because that's important, and it will be more for the future. It's Niagara Regional Fiber, not NRBN, Niagara Regional Broadband Incorporated. It's a municipally owned fiber company. So we control all the high-speed fiber here in Niagara, and we supply all the MUSH sector, municipalities, universities, the schools, the hospitals. And when major businesses, hospitals, technology companies come, first thing they ask is, where's the fiber? Back in the day, they asked, where's the electricity? Is it reliable? Where's the sewer and the water? Today, they ask, where's the fiber? And we've had many chances to sell the fiber company to the big companies. We didn't. We've been reinvesting, and what a nice feeling today. Here we all are today. We're doing Zoom, or some people are doing Skype or Microsoft Teams. And what's the big thing is fiber capacity. And how nice when you have a locally owned, municipally owned fiber company that isn't just driven by shareholders, out of town, offsite people that don't care about the community. We're driven by economic development. That is our number one motive, and all our profits get driven right back into the ground to put more fiber. And I just want to point out, Vern, that's one of the ways we're all able to come together today and not be at the mercy of a big fiber company that's more interested in the big cities. Here in Niagara, we're going to have some control of the reins of our destiny because of things like this. And every business out there, if you haven't already, you should look up Niagara Regional NRBN, Niagara Regional Broadband, and just check it out. Let them give you a quote on the rates and show how we can service you, and it'll help drive growth and help us economic development wise in the region. So I'll close with that last infomercial.
Well, that's a very good mention, because other mayors have certainly mentioned residential broadband as a big issue. You have a high school kid in grade 12 and they can't watch their lessons online because they don't have sufficient broadband at their home, and it's crippling. If anything regarding COVID is an issue right now, it's probably broadband distribution to rural areas. So hats off again for having one for municipalities and industry. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and Vern, we're one that we actually are trying to plug the gaps of those people, like you said, those kids that need to do their homework from home, the teachers who are teaching from home, the people running their businesses from home. We're trying to run fiber everywhere because we're not driven just by a good business model. we want to make sure it's a good economic development model, because we understand it's not all about the money. Of course, the money is very important, but we will look at the bigger picture, more of an altruistic look and organic, to make sure that we get that fiber to the home. And that's what we're doing now. We're doing fiber to the home and fiber to the business. So we're making sure we get out there to those areas, because the big companies, let's face it, all corporations are driven by money. It's all about money. And with us, money's important, but it's not number one. Making sure everybody's connected, that's the top of our agenda. So it's good. It's like having public television. We're here to service everybody here.
No, it's awesome. Thank you for that. Thanks for bringing it up too. It's an issue we did leave without talking about it. Thanks again. Reminder that our next sessions in the Mayor's Update series will be on November 12 with Mayor Junkin, Mayor of the town of Pelham. You can register for that today, for that session online at any of the chamber websites for South Niagara Chambers. And we have a number of weekly webinars and networking activities taking place regarding your education, your development, and a bunch of other insight topics. So have a look at the website and see what's going on. There's a lot. And certainly, I have it down here that November 14th is going to be a big day for Niagara Falls. We have our drive-through parade. We have the start of the Festival of Lights. And I'm sure we can still go. Maybe we can't go around and see the Spooky Awards, but we need to do that this week. So everybody should be doing that. And again, Mayor Diodati, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful session, and all the best.
Thanks, you too. Happy Halloween weekend.
Take care.
You too. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.